Do you think the Knicks need to add another star alongside Brunson? Is that the deal? Like bring in the big name or keep working with what they have?
For the most part, when you're talking about super teams, you're thinking about three guys. I think you do definitely need two. You see Ant and Cat. You see Luka and Kyrie. You see JT and JB. Jalen Brunson was running solo. Now, the question is, do you believe Julius Randle is that second star that can help get the Knicks over the hump? The question is, who are they could potentially bring in? I agree with a lot what KG said, because when you bring somebody from the outside, he doesn't understand the inner workings of how they do business. Tim's going to run him into the ground, going to play him 40 minutes on a nightly basis, and come by the time the playoffs come, everybody's check engine light's going to be on. And then pretty soon, they're going to be side the road because the engine ran hot, the radiator done spilled over, and, the spark plugs and the voltage regulator is on the brink. So for me, man, I would say yes. Yes, I would bring. The question is, who could it be? Because when I look at Julius Randle, I don't look at him as that tier B star. So if Jalen Brunson is your 1A, I don't look at him as a 1B star. I just don't. So with that being said, I would look to bring somebody else in and go from there. But I do understand everything that KG said. But I just don't look at Julius Randle as that 1B star.
I definitely think he's a 1B guy. I think we forgot about how good Julius Randle is. And in the playoffs, when the game slows down, you need another guy that you could throw the ball to and go get a bucket, and that's what Randle can do. We forget, man, Bogdanovich is a guy that people don't talk about. He was not healthy. He's a guy who's capable of going for 20 any night. They didn't have OG. They don't have Mitchell. Half their starting lineup was missing. If this team's fully healthy, they definitely would have beat the Pacers. And they had an absolute shot to compete and beat against a vulnerable Boston, especially without Porzingis. If we're talking about going forward in the future, this is a team that has money to spend, so if you can get better, you get better. I remember a couple years ago, Boston got rid of Marcus Smart. That's a guy that no one thought they would get rid of. Everybody thought he was going to be a homer for life. No, they got rid of him. What they ended up retrieving, they ended up getting a Drew Holiday and becoming better. So you can always get better, but to KG's point, it has to fit the cloth of the team. We've seen these teams get thrown together. Phoenix, you name it. The Brooklyn team a couple years prior to that, where you just throw a bunch of stars on a team and it doesn't work. No more than ever in the NBA have we seen a role player be more valuable than now. We're seeing role players go to teams and change teams. Derek White has changed the Celtics. Josh Hart and DiVincenzo has changed the Knicks. Gatford and P.J. Washington have changed the Mavericks. You don't need to go get this 1A star. You already have a 1A, 1B. They have a plethora of role players. They have cash to spend. Now, if you can get a Paul George, a Klay Thompson, a guy who's capable of playing both sides of the ball, that can play in that Tibbs type of demand because he wants guys to be able to play both sides of the ball at a high level, then you can do that. But if you go get a prima donna star and throw him on the Knicks, it'd be a catastrophe. You don't need to touch the Knicks. They're really, really good. In fact, if they were healthy, they could be competing going to the finals right now. So if you're a Knicks fan right now, you have to be ecstatic going into the summer with all this capability.
The Knicks are really, really good. But like you said, if you can add a star that fits the mold for this team, when I'm looking at this Knicks team, there are only two players that hit more than 2 threes a game. That's Julius Randle and that's Jalen Brunson. If you can add another player that can knock down shots and defend at a high level, not to DiVincenzo, but he's got a bigger role. You think he's going to be he's that third guy?
No.
That's what I'm saying. If you can get a third guy, it doesn't have to be 1A or 1B, but a third guy that can go 3 and D, then you can bring Dante DiVincenzo off the bench to do exactly what he's been doing. Yeah. But if you can get a third guy that is a star that can hit shots at a very high level, you do that. But you could mess it up getting the wrong guy. That's the thing. It's not panic time where you have to go get someone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But if you can get someone that can knock down threes and space the floor and defend, you go get them.
Yeah. Let me ask both of you guys a question. If you had an opportunity to get would you trade KD out for Julius Randle?
No. Culture, bro.
It's also got to work with Tibbs as well.
Tibbs
is
and
a
KD
different kind of coach as well, so that's an important
That's like
factor.
people saying, they should go get Devin. I don't know if Devin and Tibbs work. Devin and Monty Williams didn't work. You know what I mean? And Monty Williams is like a step below even Tibbs if we're talking demand of 2-hour film sessions. I played with Tibbs for 3-4 months. Hey, listen, man. Hey. Ain't no joke, bro. Like he's a different beast. So when you talk about today's star, a lot of these guys are prima donnas. I'm not saying Devin is because I don't think he's one of those guys. But there are a handful of guys that are. You have to be careful about who you bring on a team for the first time, and God knows when, is headed in the right direction. You got the Knicks headed in the right direction. They got a whole bunch of assets. They have cash. We need to do this carefully.
Real quick, Windy, do you think they're looking to make a move this offseason?
Yes, without question. And I'm going to say 5 names here that the average fan probably doesn't know but are very important. Leon Rose, Gerson Rosas, Wes Wesley, Frank Zanin, and Brock Aller. That is the Knicks front office. Those are their major decision makers. What have those guys done for the last 2+ years? Every 6 months, they add a player who fits perfectly. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Dante DiVincenzo, even Bogdanovich. He got hurt. We didn't see it. Those guys have proven an affinity for finding players at great value who fit together. And granted, there's some of them have pre-existing relationships, but that's part of good management, that have good value, that fit together, that will play for this coach. That is what KG is talking about. That is what impresses KG, that he sees that. And what KG is saying, don't go out and get a superstar who's going to come in there and screw all that up. But I do think they definitely need one thing. And this is what those 5 gentlemen are working on every single day. I promise you. They need somebody who's a little bigger who can score.
Is Tatum clearly the player under the most pressure to win a title?
No, I don't believe so. I think the Boston Celtics are, as a franchise, the most team that has the most pressure. I think, when you look at their record, what their franchise has been built upon, the culture of the Boston Celtics, the banners, how many are hanging in their arena, they definitely have the most pressure just due to their success. But in terms of the individual, I think sometimes Jayson Tatum is a product of his own success. I think sometimes because he has had so many runs to the postseason, conference finals, now the titles for a second time, we put this marker on him. But what about Luka Doncic? He's a 4-time first-team All-NBA guy. He's about to be a 5th. He's probably going to make it this year, too. He's going to be 5 times first-team All-NBA. When in the history of the NBA have we had a guy make it 5 years in a row, first-team All-NBA, and not make it to the finals 1 time? Last year, they didn't even make the playoffs. So I'm glad that Luka's back in it now. He's one of my favorite players in the league to watch, but he definitely has pressure, too. It's both of those guys. When we talk about faces of the NBA, we talk about Ant, we talk about Tatum, and the other guy we always talk about is Luka. I think Luka has just as much pressure. If we're talking about from the individual standpoint, just the individual, I think Luka has just as much pressure as Tatum. Now, if we're talking team, the Celtics are a superior team. We know with all that. No one's questioning that. But I think Luka's a guy, when you look at the history of his individual success, first-team All-NBA is no joke. You got to be sick to make first-team All-NBA. I don't think people understand, bro. The people making that list are like icons, man. We're talking about LeBrons, the Stephs, like the best of the best, the Embiids, Giannis, Jokic. This dude has made it 5 times. He's about to make it 5 times. So when we talk about pressure, there has to be someone, that guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Austin. I do believe there's pressure on Luka also, but I don't think we've ever thought Luka had the team around him that Jayson Tatum has had around him. This is about to be, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is about to be JT's 3rd first-team All-NBA selection. And as we mentioned, 6 times in the Eastern Conference Finals with no ring. No other player has ever been to the finals, the conference finals, that many times without winning 1 ring. You're right. The pressure is on the Celtics. They won the most games by a long shot. They took the most. They made the most threes. They had 2 guys that made the All-Star team. Both JB and JT is going to probably be All-NBA selections. There's a lot of pressure on the Celtics as an organization, but I do think, and if you want to say that the pressure between he and Luka are evenly distributed, I would concede that. But don't think for a second that there's not a ton of pressure on Jayson Tatum because of all the things that you've mentioned. Because he's been there so many times and because he's come up short. Because remember, they had Game 7 on their home court. They had LeBron James in a Game 7 on their home court. Because they've lost so many of these things, I think the pressure starts to mount a little bit more for him for the simple fact he's had a better supporting cast than Luka has ever had. But that doesn't mean that there's not pressure on Luka.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of pressure on Jayson Tatum. I think, though, if Jayson Tatum plays extremely well, puts the team on his back, is aggressive, isn't settling for threes, doesn't disappear when the game gets close and the game is on the line. For me, if Jayson Tatum plays well and with an aggressive mindset and keeps his foot on the gas and they fall short, that's a success. That's okay for Jayson Tatum. Like, everybody puts this pressure on him. This is still his second NBA Finals. And the question mark for Jayson Tatum at times has been his foot being on the gas, his mentality, whether or not he's settling. So Jayson Tatum showing that is a step in the right direction. I agree with you, Austin. The pressure is on the Celtics, but I wouldn't put all the pressure on Jayson Tatum. And the biggest question mark, we all have the Celtics in this high regard because of their regular season, which is fine. But Kristaps Porzingis and his availability, one, he is going to return, which is fine, but what does he look like? How does he play? How does he feel? How is he moving out on the court? Kristaps Porzingis and what he looks like if they end up making to the finals, that's a big
maker for
that is a huge not even an asterisk. It's in bold print in all caps for this Celtics team.
Can I ask a question? Or Wendy, Shannon, did you want to say something else about this subject? Go ahead, Wendy. Yep, go ahead, Wendy.
This is a dream. This is a dream situation for Jayson Tatum. He could never have dreamed of being in this spot. LeBron James not in the way. Steph Curry and the Warriors not in the way. The Nuggets, the only team this year that handled them out of all the teams, not in the way. They've got home court. All these players in the Eastern Conference totally knocked out with injury. No Jimmy Butler in the way. All the teams that they would be facing in this round, the next round, the Celtics have better depth, home court, and more experience. And if Jayson Tatum plays a bad game or two, he's got the safety net of having the best team. He has not played that well so far in the playoffs. Now, he's had some good games, but by the standard that we look at with Ant and Luka and Tyrese Halliburton even, he hasn't even played that well. And he's sitting pretty with nicely rested with a huge, one of the biggest advantages we've ever seen. And at the end of the season, he's getting $300 million. It's already booked. He's got it. He's got a spot on the most coveted Team USA since the 2008 Beijing Games. He's on the team. He's never been in a better situation in his career than he is right now. And if he can't take advantage of it, he will not get an opportunity like this again, I promise you. So Jayson Tatum has it all to win, and he can win it all.
Can I ask
Austin, let me ask you this, though. Austin, let me ask you this. How many times have you ever had a playoff series and you say, man, Luka didn't play well? How many times have you had a playoff series and you say Jayson Tatum didn't play well? Because no matter what you think about Luka, when he was going against the Clippers and it was a one-man show, he was you remember he was dropping 35, 40-point triple-doubles. Luka has it. Now, they might not win, but Luka is going to play well. And I think that's the question what Andrea was saying is that, if he plays well. We have a lot of questions about the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors. We had a lot of questions about the Miami Heat. Even up until the last two games in which they beat the Cavs, there were a lot of questions because he's giving you 17 points. His efficiency wasn't where it needed to be. So I think those are some of the questions along the way that he's going to have to answer is playing well. Yeah, winning cures all. Even if he doesn't play well and they win, we'll all forget that because we forgot the Ant shot 6 of 24 in the Western Conference semifinals, but they won the game. So if they win the game, all bets are off. But he doesn't play well. Oh, boy, oh, boy.